Yesterday, I woke up at 7 a.m. At 10:30, I was drinking my coffee. By 11, I had answered many emails and I had been working on my new lesson since 9 a.m. What do all these sentences have in common? All of them are in the past tense. Past simple, past continuous, past perfect, and past perfect continuous. As you know, in English we have past, present, and future. And for each of these three times, we have four tenses: simple, continuous, perfect, and perfect continuous. Overall, there are 12 tenses. Now, in this lesson, we're going to focus on the past tense, also known as the narrative tenses, because they are used to tell a story about the past. Now, by far the most common past tense is the past simple. As in, I work. I is the subject, and work is our verb in the past tense. Very simple structure. But when do we use it? We use past simple to talk about finished action in the past, something you did in the past, and it's over now. For example, she visited Paris last year. Last year visited Paris finished. She subject visited verb. She visited Paris last year. Or look at this. I drank coffee this morning. This morning, drank coffee finished right. Something happened in the past and it's over. And if I look at my cup right now, there's nothing inside because it's finished. I drank it this morning. Another use of the past simple is to talk about the past fact. For example, talking about dinosaur. Dinosaur lived millions of years ago. It is a fact, and it's belong to the past simple. We can also use past simple to talk about past habit. Something you did in the past as a habit. In this case, we often see an adverb of frequency. Remember adverb of frequency? Always, usually, often, sometimes, rarely, and seldom, never. In this case, we have often see one of these in this sentence too. For example, I often played football every weekend. This is habit. This is a habit I had in the past. I often played football every weekend. He always visited his grandparents. He visited. He always visited. A habit in the past. Now, a small tip here. Instead of this, you can also use used to or would. But that's a topic for another lesson. So, three uses of past simple to talk about finished action in the past. I drank my coffee in this morning. To talk about past fact. Dinosaurs lived millions of years ago. And to talk about the past habit, usually with an adverb of frequency. I often played football every weekend. Next, is it past continuous? Or you may also see past progressive in some coursebook, as in, I was working. I was working. I is the subject, was to be verb, am, is, are, was, or were. Working, verb, plus in. Remember the structure. It's quite simple, but when do we use
Past continuous.
use past continuous for an action that happened in the past for a duration of time. An ongoing action in the past. For example, at 8 p.m., they were having dinner. They were having dinner. Subject. To be verb. Verb plus verb in. Or look at this. Sorry, I missed your call. I was sleeping. I was sleeping. It was ongoing action. Another use of past continuous, which is very interesting, is when a long action is interrupted by a short one. What do I mean? It's also called interrupted past. In some of the course book, it's something like this. Something was happening in the past, and a short action cut it off. She was reading book when the phone rang. Now, what was the long action? The long action was she reading a book. And what was the short action that interrupted this long action? Now, what was the long action? The long action was she reading a book. And what was the short action that interrupted this long action? The phone ringing. Now, the long action which was interrupted is the past continuous tense. The short action which interrupted the long action in the past simple tense. And thus, two sentences are connected with either when or while. Or look at this. While she was reading, the phone rang. This is the same sentence, but instead of when, the two phrases now are connected with while. Now, what's the difference between when and while? Which one do we use before the past continuous sentence? While. While plus past continuous. And which one do we use before the past simple one? When. When plus past simple. Or let me give you another example. Let's say you are outside with friends or family, and then you're having a nice barbecue together, but suddenly it starts to rain. Now, which was the long action that was interrupted by something else? You having a barbecue, and which was the action that interrupted what you were doing? It started to rain. So, the sentence would be like, we were having barbecue when it started to rain. Or, while we were having a barbecue, it started to rain. This is a very common use of past continuous. Another use of past continuous is when you are trying to set the scenes for a story. What do I mean? Imagine you are telling a story about something that happened in the past and you're trying to describe the atmosphere. You're trying to say what the condition was like. So, you would say something like this. It was a nice day. The birds were singing, the sun was shining, kids were playing, and the wind was blowing. I saw a man coming outside the bank. You see, I was trying to tell a story, but we were telling the main part of the story. I was setting the scenes and to describe the atmosphere. And the setting of this story, I use past continuous. Alright, so let's sum up. When do we use past continuous? We use it to talk about ongoing actions in the past. To talk about long actions, interrupted by a short action in the past, and to tell story trying to describe the atmosphere. Let's move on to the next one. Past perfect. This one is quite simple. Past perfect is like I had a work. I had work. Subject had past participle of the verb. But when do we use it? We use these tenses to talk about something that happened in the past before another action. In the past. What? Very simple. Very easy. Something happened in the past. We use past simple, right? But if something else happened before that in the past, we use past perfect. Let's say there was a robbery. The thief escaped. The police arrived. Two actions, both in the past, right? But before the police arrived, the thief had escaped. Look at this. Pay attention. Which one happened first? The thief had escaped first, and what happened after? And what happened after the police arrived? The one that happened before the other one will be in the past perfect. The thief had escaped. And the one that happened afterward is past simple. The police arrived. And to connect the two clauses together, we either use by the time or before. So, look at this. The thief had escaped by the time the police arrived. See, which one happened first? The thief had escaped, and which one happened second? The police arrived. Or here, another one. Let's say I ate something. I ate pizza. And then my aunt called me and invited me to dinner. But I was full. I was not hungry. So, how would I say this? I had already eaten before she visited me to dinner. So, first, I ate something. Then she invited me to dinner. Both of them in the past, but one of them was before the other actions. The action before the other one is past perfect. I had already eaten. The action that happened after is past simple. My aunt invited me to dinner, and we connect them using before or by the time. I had already eaten before she visited me to dinner. This was quite simple. There is only one use case for past perfect. Something happened in the past before another action in the past. Yeah. Moving on to the past perfect continuous. This is also quite interesting. As in, I had been working. Subject had been, verb plus ing. Now, this is the exact same context. Two actions happened in the past. One action happened before another action. That will be past perfect, right? But the actions that happened before the other action is the past was not a single action, but was a continuous action. So, a long action which happened before another action in the past, that is past perfect continuous. But what do I mean? Let me give you a few examples. Let's say some people were waiting at the bus stop for the bus to come, right? But before the bus arrived, but before that, they had been waiting for 2 hours. See, two action in the past. The bus arrived. They waited, but them waiting in the past was before the bus arrived, and it was a long action for 2 hours. So we use past perfect continuous. They had been waiting for 2 hours when the bus arrived. Alright, that was its four tenses in the past. Past simple, past continuous, past perfect, and past perfect continuous.